You're listening to the Full Court Press with your host, Drew Duncan. Don't you dare touch that dial. It is Monday right here on the Full Court Press, and you know what that means. It is Say What. First of all, there were a laundry list of things that I could have done for Say What. I could have talked to you about how Michael Phelps, Olympic medalist, raced a great white shark.
Say what?
That really happened, by the way. Michael Phelps, during Shark Week, raced a great white shark. I could have talked about Conor McGregor wearing C.J. Watson's jersey and going to war on Instagram with Draymond Green, who currently wears number 23 for the Golden State Warriors, and how Floyd Mayweather was all about it, and how Conor McGregor pointed out that he was wearing C.J. Watson's jersey for an alternate purpose, and that was to, of course, get at Floyd Mayweather, because as we all know by now, I'm sure, the NBA player at the time wore number 23 for Golden State and was allegedly having inappropriate text messages with then Floyd Mayweather's wife. I could talk about Kyrie Irving and how he said he wants traded out of Cleveland. And I could talk about LeBron James and how he said he thinks the front office is sabotaging the basketball team. But that's not where I'm going with this today. Matter of fact, my say what moment of the weekend is from Malik Jackson, former Denver Bronco when they won the Super Bowl, current Jacksonville-Jaguar, when he said, quote, "We will win the Super Bowl this year."
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
His justification for it was the Panthers went to the Super Bowl after missing the playoffs, which, by the way, they did twice. So it made me want to do some research on this, and I ended up finding out that there have been 15 teams that didn't make the playoffs the year before. By the way, Jacksonville last season finishing 3-13, that went to a Super Bowl the next year. Some of the most notable teams would have been the 86 Denver Broncos. I'm sure you all remember John Elway, the drive. The 2001 New England Patriots, the surgeons of Tom Brady. In 1999, the Tennessee Titans and the then St. Louis Rams didn't make the playoffs the year before, ended up playing against each other in what was one of the greatest Super Bowls of all time. Of the 15 teams to do it, by the way, only 5 of them would actually go on to win the Super Bowl, giving any team that has never made the playoffs the year before going to a Super Bowl the next season overall a 17% chance of not only going to a Super Bowl but winning the game. In June, the odds for the Jacksonville Jaguars going to the Super Bowl were 80-1 per Vegas. It's actually gotten worse since then. They now sit at an astounding 90-1 odds to go to a Super Bowl. Reasons could include Blake Bortles, who hasn't even thrown 70 touchdown passes yet, and he's thrown over 50 interceptions, nearly sitting at a 1-to-1 ratio for touchdowns to interceptions. I don't know what Malik Jackson thought. Maybe he looked at the schedule and went, guys, this is a possibility. After all, they do have to play the Texans twice. They'll be facing a rookie quarterback in Deshaun Watson when they do face the Texans. That could be right in the wheelhouse. He may have looked and said, guys, our first few games are the Texans, the Titans, the Ravens, the Jets, the Steelers, the Rams, the Bengals, and the Seahawks. He might have thought to himself, 4 of those games are winnable at least. Who knows? Get your confidence up against the Texans and the Titans, even though a lot of people are anticipating basically a huge breakout year for Marcus Mariota. We never know what we're going to get out of the Ravens. The Jets are the Jets. The Rams are the Rams. The Bengals are the Bengals. And the Seahawks finished last year the best team in the NFC West with a 10-5-1 record. Which, by the way, they'll be playing two NFC West teams basically out of the gate in the Rams and the Seahawks. But one of the key noted losses, though, is going to be coming from the offensive line. Kid by the name of Joel. He's gone. He went to the Seahawks, a team that they'll be playing. And who better to have insight as to what they're going to do than a former offensive lineman for their own football team? Of course, the Jacksonville-Jaguars do have the good fortune of being in the prime location to win football games, the AFC South. But realistically, from 3-13 to, let's call it 12-4, come on. It has been done, obviously. But percentage-wise, to make it to the Super Bowl, statistically, they have a 26% chance. And a 17% chance to actually win the game. I mean, is Malik Jackson starting to take pointers from Rex Ryan? Does everybody remember every year Rex Ryan would make one of these outlandish claims? I mean, do you remember Rex Ryan? He would say, oh, remember that year they got beat by the Dolphins? He was like, man, they're going to go all the way. The Dolphins are a great football team. Didn't even make the playoffs. At the beginning of every season, he would say the New York Jets were going to go to the Super Bowl. I mean, Rex Ryan was making outlandish claims similar to, I invented the question mark.
He would make outrageous claims like he invented the question mark.
It just kind of sounds like that's where Malik Jackson is coming from. I invented the question mark.
He would make outrageous claims like he invented the question mark.
The Jacksonville Jaguars going to the Super Bowl this year. Now, guys, I'm as optimistic as anybody else. I grew up a Broncos fan. John Elway's my favorite quarterback of all time. The comeback kid. You know, matter of fact, I will never forget one of the games that we watched. Denver was down 19-6. My dad he called it no enjoy, figured the game was over. I'm a little kid. I'm sitting there and I'm going, Dad, come on. It's never over till it's over, Dad. It's never over till it's over. Denver comes back. They win the football game 20-19. One of the greatest comebacks I've ever seen in my life. Less than 5 minutes to go in the game. It just didn't seem realistic, and it ended up happening. I'm never the guy to completely discredit a football team. You know, over the years, we see teams begin to make slight improvements like the Oakland Raiders and some other teams over the years that they build into this. And yeah, every now and again, we see a Carolina Panthers or, you know, a St. Louis Rams, back then St. Louis Rams. We see a Denver Broncos team. I think it was the 1981 San Francisco 49ers and Joe Montana that didn't make the playoffs the year beforehand, and they ended up going to Super Bowl and coincidentally playing another team that was in the exact same situation the year before in the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm not saying it's without cause. And you should have confidence in your football team. You should have confidence in your guys. But they're already having problems with guys like Dante Fowler, who was recently arrested for allegedly throwing a man's groceries out and was basically a fit of road rage. The guy was allegedly commenting on Fowler's driving. He didn't take too kindly to it. He got out the car, and now he's being charged with simple assault. Of course, Fowler's never been without trouble, has he? Because Fowler has also allegedly had videos up on the internet where his then girlfriend and then ex-girlfriend were fighting each other, and it didn't look like he really did a whole lot to stop the situation from going down. Blake Bortles, to this point, has he really showed anybody anything that makes them go, hey, man, Blake Bortles is your guy, and they could really work around this kid? Granted, there's been a lot of quarterbacks over the years that have had really slow starts and developed into great players. I'm thinking of guys like Drew Brees. His first full season, I think he threw, 17 touchdown passes? The year before that, he threw 11 touchdown passes. Got traded by the Chargers. Everybody thought he was going to go to the Dolphins. Goes to New Orleans. We see the results from there. I'm not saying that it's not without possibility that Blake Bortles and company could come on and have a phenomenal year. We've seen teams make runs before that start behind early in the season and end up making runs late into the year, i.e. Eli Manning and the New York Giants twice. Those ended up being Super Bowl victories. But to just peel back and open up one day and go, hey, guys, we're going all the way this year, and that's all there is to it. And until we get beat to the point where we won't make it, I'm going to continue to stake this claim. In other words, Malik Jackson is standing by this no matter what happens. Until they are officially out of the playoffs or beat in the playoffs, he's sticking to his guns. And for that, I give him all the credit in the world. At least when he says it, he's electing to stand by it. But does this mean that if they win in week 1 or every single game that they win or even lose, he's just going to get on a podium or take to Twitter or get on whatever radio show and go, hey, by the way, guys, we're Super Bowl bound? And look, no football team starts the season without the expectation of we're going to go play in a Super Bowl. And to be perfectly honest with you, the Jaguars' schedule is somewhat favorable. Granted, the Seahawks are still a very tough team. I sort of downplayed them earlier. The season that they had last year wasn't the greatest, but they can't all be great. And the Seahawks are a Super Bowl winning team, and they played one hell of a game against Tom Brady New England Patriots in the Super Bowl. Russell Wilson is one of my favorite quarterbacks right now in all the NFL. I think he's far above and beyond one of the most entertaining for certain to watch. I think he spent most of his career being very underrated. They do have to play the Seahawks, but they also play the Browns. They play the Texans twice. They play the Titans, the Bengals, but they also play the Steelers. You know, at the end of the day, as we all know, games are never, ever won on paper. It's just not the way football ever really works. You know, a few years ago, I really felt like the Jacksonville-Jaguars, when they acquired Blake Bortles and did some of the things that they did in the first round with making trades, making big-time drafts, wide receivers out of USC. I mean, they really looked like they were making huge moves. They go and they acquire Julius Thomas from the Denver Broncos. Now they've acquired Malik Jackson from the Denver Broncos. You know, on the surface, when you look at the Jaguars every single year, you look at this roster and go, they should be winning football games. Does it come down to coaching? Does it come down to play calling? Does it come down to preparation? Is it actual effort on the football field? I don't think there's a right or wrong answer either way. But I just was so floored when I heard Malik Jackson pop off and say, we're going to the Super Bowl. Look, at the end of the day, why don't you try winning 7 or 8 games first, and then we'll talk, bro. And when I say 7 or 8 games, I mean like through week 10, you've got a 7-3 record, an 8-2 record. You know, maybe you hit that bye week, you have a 7-2 record, an 8-1 record, then we'll start talking. But you're still in the AFC, and right now the AFC, as far as I'm concerned, is very stacked. The Pittsburgh Steelers, the Denver Broncos are, to me, a very underrated football team this year. The New England Patriots. There's a lot of offensive firepower right now in the AFC. The Bengals, whether they win games or not, they're going to score a lot of points on you. None of these teams at the end of the day are just pushovers. The Ravens and the veteran leadership that they have right now at quarterback with Joe Flacco, this is not a walk in the park deal, guys. And he should be dripping with confidence because of what he helped accomplish with the Denver Broncos. But what's going on with Fowler and some of these other guys right now really is harsh to the football team. They've got 2 players already that are going to be on the physically unable to play list, which, by the way, is eating up 90% of their defensive roster at the moment. They're both cornerbacks. Fowler, a defensive end, was a high draft pick last year, and the guy has a great first season, 32 tackles, 4 sacks. And he'll probably be suspended at some point for this. I mean, we've seen it with Roger Goodell. Whether you're innocent or not really kind of gets thrown out the window with him. He'll call it conduct detrimental to the NFL. Just because you were accused, we're just going to automatically suspend you. So let's say that Fowler is innocent of these situations. Well, then what? It won't matter. He'll probably still get suspended. You know, it's just the way that it is. The real reality of it is this. The Jacksonville-Jaguars still do have an uphill battle. The first part of that battle is keeping guys healthy, keeping guys out of trouble, and keeping guys focused. The next part of that battle is at the quarterback position. Is Blake Bortles really the future of this football team? Does Blake Bortles give you everything that you need at quarterback? Look, the physical capability, I believe, is there. Reading the defense, though, leadership intangibles, things that you can't coach, how the guys look at him in the locker room, do the players on both sides of the football want to play for this guy? Those are things that start getting into the equation. Look at the Oakland Raiders and how Derek Carr is respected in that football team. And that's all you need to know about the quarterback position. Oakland's another team out of the AFC right now. They've got a lot of high expectations going into this year. And just because we don't think that the Jacksonville Jaguars are not a very good football team, and just because we all sit back and go, okay, Malik, whatever, bro, that's cool. Hope that works out for you, bro. Cool story. While the rest of us all kind of take that stance, understand that the guys who have played football a lot of times look at that and respect it. Now, there are some guys going, hey, man, what are you doing? Why are you putting this undue pressure on us? It's already hard enough to be an NFL athlete as it is. It's already hard enough with the kind of season that we've had the last couple of years. You know, what are you doing? There are those guys that go, dude, calm down a little bit. But there are those guys that get behind him 100% and say, I'm all about it. Let's go make this happen. There is a time and a place for everything. Is the time and place now for Malik Jackson to get on TV and radio and Twitter and say, hey, guys, we're going to the Super Bowl? After a 3-13 season, not so much. But I admire and I respect his willing to stand by it.
You've been listening to the official Full Court Press podcast, hosted by myself, Drew Duncan. Don't forget, you can always find me on Twitter. That's at DrewDuncan83. Of course, the official Full Court Press podcast is on Facebook. You can also reach me there at DrewDuncan83 as well. For all you Instagrammers, I am on there at DrewDuncan83. Thank you so much for tuning in.